Morning everybody, Rusty from the Rusty Razor. Got another shave today, and today we're going to be using Stirling's Naked and Smooth. Yep, no scent with this, but you add some. And today we're going to be using Avon's Wild Country. There we go. Avon Wild Country. One of my favorites. And that's about 3/4 full. Slowly going down. I got bored. It's like I'm like a squirrel with Avon Wild Country everywhere. It's like on the shelves here, there, everywhere. Yeah. It's like, what? One of these days I'll bring in the, if the Vikings ever go back to the Super Bowl, I got an Avon Wild Country Viking container for the last time they went to the Super Bowl. All right, so we're going to be using the Gillette, second use of the Gillette, or is this third use? Third use of the Gillette Wilkinson sword blades with the Merkur 34C razor. All right, get this down. It's like, remember where all these blades are in their usage. I have to think for a second. Go through the memory banks. See which one I was like, bring up a photo and go, oh, yeah, that one. That's pretty much how I remember things. It's like photos and memory reels in my head. Smells good. Now, if you haven't used Naked and Smooth, get the best of the Stirling, and you can add whatever scent you want to it, which I do like to do. Come on, throat. A little extra gooiness in this throat this morning. Woke up and go, and I was like, Matthew Lawrence knows exactly what I'm going through. It's like, ugh. It's like, woke up this morning going, I can't breathe. Too much stuff in my throat. All the drainage coming down. Yeah, it all starts with, gosh, has it been 50 years? I think it's been 50 years. When I went to, or maybe it's 49 years. I think it's 49. Yeah, I think it's 49 years. Oh, I had to think there what year it was. When this year, we'll be 50 years this December. A year, almost a year. It's like we're at the tail end of this. It's starting a new year. But I was chatting several times with Matthew Lawrence, basically saying, yeah, the one thing that will put me in the dirt, put me down for good is pneumonia. Very susceptible to it. First time I had it, put me in the hospital for 10 days. New Year's Eve. Yeah. We went to visit my grandparents around Christmas, and cold as hell. You know, we're talking sub-zero temperatures, and all we had for a vehicle was a pickup. So my youngest brother got to sit in the front of the truck with mom and dad with the heat, and the rest of us, every time we go to visit as a family unit down to my grandparents, the rest of this place would sit on hay bales in the back of the truck. Yeah, all the way for 2 hours in the back of the pickup truck. Bundled up. Basically, like, stack the hay bales around you, and it's like your little cocoon in the back. You're like under blankets. Yeah. That was how you went on your trip. Yeah. So, needless to say, you got really cold. Like, even with all the winter wear gear, and it's like, but the wind chill, it's like you get that little bit of wind blowing around. Yeah. My parents went out, and after what happened to me, went and bought a topper for the truck so they could put the topper on the truck. If we did the same trip, we'd be in at least out of the wind. But so it's like we went down, took a trip to my grandparents down at they lived in Lake Edwards, Minnesota, and which was north of Brainerd. Little town of Merrifield is where Lake Edwards is. Just my grandparents, they had a little cottage on the lake, so we'd go down there and basically my brother and I would take all of our stuff with us, and we'd stay for probably about 4 or 5 days at least. And my grandparents would take us back. You know, they'd drive us up there and drop us off most of the time. Sometimes the parents would come back and get one of them, and so we'd at least be in the vehicle together up in the front, because all it took was one parent to drive. Usually my dad come get us on the weekend. But we'd sit there and go to my grandparents and sit there and go fishing. I'd go ice fishing with my grandfather. Every day possible, we'd be in the ice house with him and loading up on fish. At least a cooler or two full. Fill up the freezer. You're talking 12-hour days out in the ice house with listening to the radio. Go out there early in the morning, come back in the evening. It was always fun. Grandpa would always tell stories. He was an interesting individual. And so we took the trip down there to him and froze our ass off. Like 2 brothers, 3 other brothers in the back of the truck. And the entire time we got in there and got to the grandpa's in Iowa. It was like my brothers and I were like just shivering, because even though we grew up there, it's like you didn't necessarily have really good winter coats and stuff that would sustain you in that kind of conditions. Imagine being like equivalent of being in a blizzard for 4 hours, 3 hours, or 2 hours out in the elements. But yeah, so got done and I was feeling terrible. I was like, I started hacking a couple days in. It's like we're still fishing and everything, and I was like slowly getting a bad hack in my lungs. Wasn't getting any better, kept getting a little worse, and finally my grandmother was like, I'm taking you boys back to your parents. I was like, hey, you need to be at home because you're pretty sick. So brought me back. At least it was nice and warm in the car, because my grandparents had a was a 67 Ford Galaxy, I think it was 500. So a nice car, kept you warm. But sitting at home the entire time, we got back, and I'm just like shivering. I was terrible, this film. And terrible. It just kept getting worse and worse and worse, and pretty soon it's like, I remember it was New Year's Eve. My parents went and say, we're going to go out for New Year's Eve, go out of town. And I remember watching a little bit of TV, and that was the last I remember. I was sitting there watching TV, and next thing you know, it's like, I passed out. I was like, I couldn't breathe. I was hacking up green gobs of goo. And I was like, I ended up having pneumonia at the time. It's like, basically at the time, somebody was like, you better be dead before we have to worry about taking you to the doctor. You know, basically, I'll pretty much end up dead anyway. And parents come home they trying to wake me up to get me to go to bed, and I unresponsive. And it's like, I guess my mom felt my forehead and was like, he's cooking. Took my temperature, and I was like 103, and I was like, oh. We better take me to so they rushed me into the emergency room in the hospital. And I remember waking up from this whole ordeal, tube down my throat. They had me on a respirator. And I'm like, and I was like, starting to freak out. It's like, what the hell's, it's like, what's going on, You're not used to seeing it. It's like, what the hell? And nurse comes in. That's, like, leave it there. You'll be fine. It's there to keep you breathing well. Like, okay. Like, don't touch it. And doctor comes in a little bit later, and he's like, son, it's like, you got pneumonia, bad. And it's like, you're lucky to be alive. It's like, if he hadn't brought you in when they did, you wouldn't be here. Like, ooh. I was at the checkout counter of life, just as a young lad. So appreciate life. That's all I gotta say. It's like, that's the New Year's thing, is like, appreciate your year, because you never how many you're gonna get. It's like, tomorrow you can not wake up. It's always been my motto. It's like, and I spent 10 days in the hospital. It was not fun. And ever since then, I always seem to get pneumonia. It's like, it damages your bronchioles, so it's like, makes you more susceptible to pneumonia. I get my pneumonia shots, but it's like, I'm still suffering from the effects where I get drainage. It's like, rhinitis problem. It's like my sinuses plug up. I've talked about that before, and that drainage gets in your throat and lungs. It makes you can't breathe as well. It's a vicious thing, one feeding the other. So I'm always about every 2 to 3 hours, because they don't have me on the good stuff anymore. I used to have some good nasal spray that was prescription. And it's like, now it's like $120 to get a spray. It's like, okay, I have to go buy the stuff off the shelf, which doesn't work as well. It's kind of similar, but it doesn't do the job. Before, I used to take a spray maybe 2-3 times a day. Get up in the morning, around lunchtime, and then before I go to bed, or in the evening, and I'd be fine. But the stuff I get off the counter, like every 2 hours I have to spray. It just sucks. So it makes it hard to get through the night sleeping. So, the other thing, enjoy life. You never know how long you're gonna get. That's my motto. Grab life by the balls and squeeze as much you can. Yeah. I'm sitting there smelling every time I use the old Avon Wild Country. I always think of my grandfather because it was one of his favorites. Every time we'd go fishing, he'd clean the fish, he'd wash his hands really good, and then he'd take some Avon Wild Country, put it in his hands, rub it all over his hands and on his face. He said, that's how you get rid of that fishy smell. Covered up with a little bit of cologne. Every time I smell this stuff, I always flash back to my grandfather. Watching him shave as a kid. He didn't shave every day. He shaved about every 3 days or so. But so they say, scents make you remember things. I think we got it. I think we're done. Right there. All right, now we're done. Whew. Clean up. All right, so we're going to be using a little bit of Avon Wild Country. Been using it as my shave. Now we're going to use concentrated. Come out of there. There we go. You like Pinard Clubman? If you haven't ever had Wild Country, think of Pinard Clubman on steroids. Ah, man, it smells so good. Yep, Avon Wild Country. If you haven't tried it, find yourself some. Oh, like those of you out there that have used it, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Whew, man. All right, so that's the shave of the day. There's an affiliate link down below from the Razor Company. If you want anything from the Razor Company, you click on it, get a little bit of kickback, and we'll get some giveaway doing sometime here in the near future. All right, so that was Stirling Naked and Smooth, combined with some Avon Wild Country. So that's the scent of the day. Oh, where did I do it? There it is. Like third use of the Wilkinson sword blades with the Merkur 34C razor. Nice little combo. Man, nice smooth shave. Oh, I like it. I'm happy land right now. All right. You guys have a good one. Like and subscribe. Share with your friends. And we'll see you again. Rusty out.